What's going on today, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we'll be going over my secret vocal chain. It's not really a secret, but it's a secret how many plugins there are in it. If you're not willing to get trials for these plugins, or if you're not willing to look into alternatives, or getting a trial, then you may want to turn back, because we're going to be using a lot of shit today, and it's obviously kind of necessary when you want to mix like some crazy good vocals. Like, stock things are great, but we're gonna have to dive into some extra curricular things like VOCALIGN, the Waves bundle, Isotope RX bundle, just basically everything. So I'm gonna be mixing this song that I recorded. I did the vocals, I did the beat, I did everything. Thank you. I keep my eyes shut, I just wanna sleep. No more war, I just want peace. I keep my eyes shut, I just wanna sleep. No more war, I just want peace. I'll be MIA, I'll see you in a day. So there's hooks, there's verses, there's ad-libs. As you can see, we have a lot of recordings here. In my opinion, like, the more vocal recordings you have in your project, the better. Even if you don't use like a lot of them, you'd rather have more than enough stuff than not enough stuff with vocals. You can have more than one layer, you can have just more than one layer on certain words, you could have ad-libs, you can have multiple ad-libs. It just keeps going. So there's a lot of things you could do, especially during like chorus or hook sections. You could really pile on the layers there. Like, I've done tracks with like 10 plus layers in like the chorus section. That's not really that abnormal in like pop music. So yeah, to get started here, you definitely want to label everything. The better everything is labeled, the better, because we're gonna like have to do a lot of navigation here. Pretty much that's like rule number 1. Maybe it's like rule number 3, actually. It's like rule number 3 of like mixing a song is you gotta label everything. Otherwise you're not gonna have a good time. Okay, so I got everything separated here. I got like the hook separate and the verses. And that's just in case we need to process them differently, and we're gonna have like some different things possibly in each one. So I do put them into a general group afterwards, a general vocal group. A good way to start when you're mixing vocals is just to make sure the quality of everything is good. Like, make sure like you don't need to go back and re-record anything, that you got like everything you need. So yeah, definitely analyze that first. Right off the bat, we want to do any cleaning and whatnot that's necessary. So like mouth declicking, voice denoise, anything we might need to do like that, or like cutting out blank spaces. We should do all that right now. Like, I'm gonna cut out the blank spaces here on the ad-libs. I mean, there's plugins that do this, but sometimes it's just good to just do it the old-fashioned way, because sometimes the plugin will mute it early, mute it a little late, it'll leave in a little artifact or something. It's not always perfect. We're just trying to like get rid of as much noise as possible, get rid of any bleed, anything unnecessary that's just gonna make it sound not professional. We're trying to make this sound like legitimate, It's kind of this is a very bedroom recording. Like, I could probably do this better, but with the tools we have nowadays, you can fix quite a bit. Obviously, there's no hard, fast rule for doing vocal mixing. Like, you could slap on a vocal chain, but if you don't know what everything inside of it is doing individually, then it kind of doesn't really matter, because you're probably gonna do more damage than good at the end of the day. So definitely remember to you want to learn like what every single tool does. You want to know why you're using your EQ, you want to know why you're using your compression, you want to know why you're using your reverb, multiband compression, everything. Like, you should have a reason for everything you're doing. If you don't have a reason to do it, like, I mean, you can experiment, that's fine to experiment, but there shouldn't be that much experimentation. You shouldn't be experimenting with like basic mixing concepts. You should just know that. Okay, so it looks alright so far. First thing we probably want to do is turn everything down. I'm going to do that. We're going to do it in the audio. Better off doing it in the audio because it's the earliest stage. There's also this thing known as gain staging. I don't think we're going to worry about that in this video, though. It seems a little bit advanced. Maybe we could talk about that in the near future. If you guys want a gain staging video, let me know down in the comments. So we're going to want to know the key of our song, obviously. Sorry, we haven't really dived into the full-on mixing yet. We're just doing like the prep work. There's a lot of prep work that goes into this, in my opinion. Like, knowing the key is like something we're going to need down the road. So we might as well just figure that out right now. So I'm pretty sure I have it analyzed in Melodyne here. If you don't know the key of your song, I don't know what to tell you. Like, fucking go do that, go figure that out, and then come back. Pause the video if you don't know that. This video might be too advanced for you. So I'm pretty sure it's E minor. Alright, confession, guys, I don't know how to mix vocals. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I just thought it'd be funny because there's like so much anticipation at this point. I'm just gonna solo the layers and try to figure out which ones I like the most. At the very least, we need at least 2, in my opinion, for like a good like hook section. I mean, you could get away with 1, but I would like to have at least 2 here. I'm gonna try to pick one as like a guide layer. That's gonna be like our main layer. We reference everything else based upon like the timing is good on this one. So probably one of these top 2 I'd pick because it just looks like it's like lined up more on the grid. That is a big roach. That is a really big roach. If that thing flies, I'm gonna if it's giving birth right now, I'm gonna kill myself. I don't want to see that. What the fuck? All right, the roach isn't leaving, so I've adopted him. First things first, I'm gonna throw a mouth declick on everything. So if you don't have RX-8, I don't know what to tell you. I think that's not like literally the only software that has it. So if you don't have RX-8, go get it or get a trial or something. So I actually had this one already tuned a bit. I'm not going to change that. I'm just going to pretend like it sounded like that to begin with. So I'm going to throw mouth declick on all of these. And usually the default settings are pretty good on this. If you're still noticing some mouth clicks, just turn up the sensitivity. But for now, I'll just leave it at default. I've pretty much never had it go wrong with me on default.
Pockets getting money anyway.
Probably gonna need some deplosive here. Let's just do that now. So if you have a deplosive plugin, use that. I'm gonna use RX-8. Pretty sure the default will be good to start for us. One thing I love about RX-8 is a lot of the default settings for their plugins are actually pretty on point.
Pockets getting money anyway.
So the one with the most noise, I'm gonna throw voice denoise on. That's also an RX-8 plugin. I think there's also a waves one too. I think it's like X noise or something. I don't know. That one's pretty good too. But so this one we're gonna set it to music. Let's try gentle. Let's try a gentle filter type because yeah, we're trying to not ruin the recording. Like I'm just trying to get rid of like some of the noise in the background, but I don't want to like get rid of how like crispy it sounds. You know.
No more war. I just want peace. I'll be MIA. I'll see you in a day.
That's probably pretty good there. It's not too bad. It's not as good as it was, but you know, we can add some bite back into it later on. That's why it's good to have a good recording because you don't have to do stuff like this. So good recordings are better. As I'm saying this though, I have a bad recording. I think that's the only one we need denoise on though.
Keep my eyes shut. I just want to sleep. No more war.
Okay, next thing I'm hearing we should do to it is I definitely hear like breathing. We want to get rid of that. So we're gonna use RX-8 or Waves also has a good one too called DEBREATH. Usually it doesn't matter if it's in mono because you're just gonna be putting it on your mono voice recording for each track. Don't put it on the entire group if you're using a mono specific plugin. Just thought I should clarify that. You should definitely pay attention to that though because that could cause problems. Like if you put a mono plugin on your stereo vocal chain, then yeah, you're just gonna ruin all that work you just did. So anyways, we're gonna throw breath control on all of these. Let's see how it sounds with the stock settings and then adjust from there. It just sounds really phasey. This is why we don't use a doubler and why we use like our own organic layers. Alright, so we got our layers here. I'm just going to duplicate it over to the other 2 choruses because I don't want it to be different. If I do, I would add another layer to do it. So once we got that straight, copying it over and copying it over.
No more war. I just want.
Still hearing some breathing, so we're gonna have to isolate some of the layers and figure it out. Figure out which one's doing it. So we're either have to turn down the level it's turning it down at, or turn up the sensitivity, or both. We should turn up both a little bit. That's a good way to start. So maybe turn that up to 75 or something, and then turn it down to -40. And I'm just gonna copy it to the other ones, and delete the other one, the old one. Okay, let's hear how it sounds.
No more war. I just want peace.
When I say peace, there's like a little bit of clipping or something. I don't know if like I didn't have this thing on or what, but we may have to go in and do some declipping to that or like take a P from a different word or something. Yeah, as you can hear, you're gonna really, this is the opposite of the last video. We're gonna, instead of not using our ears at all, we're gonna be using our ears extensively today. Like every little thing we're gonna try to like pick apart. There's also an AC hum tool that we might be able to get rid of, help or use to get rid of this. De-hum. Yeah, I think de-hum is what we want. So yeah, it's better to work on each layer individually as opposed to just like throwing it all together and trying to process it all at once. I mean, you can do a little bit of that too. We're gonna do a little bit of that later on, but it's better to work on each layer individually. All right, anyways, we got the de-hum here. Let's hear it.
Just want sleep. No more war. I just want peace. I'll be MIA.
So a good thing to do is to bypass whatever you're doing to your track or your vocals and compare it before and after. Make sure whatever you're doing is helping as opposed to hurting it. In this case, I want to make sure it's not ruining the signal. So one thing you could do here is click learn. We'll see if it can learn it for us.
Eyes shut. I just want sleep. No more war. I just want peace.
That sounds pretty good to me. Let's hear just the hum. Okay, it's eating up way less of the vocal this time. That's a lot better. Sounds fine to me. So we're just going to use that same hum here because it's the same AC. So I don't think too much will change. But let's listen to how all of that sounds now.
Eyes shut. I just want to sleep. No more war.
Sounds much better. I still hear, I could hear myself in my chair in one of these recordings though, which is not ideal. Yeah, I actually can't even hear the chair when I'm like listening to it in the actual beat.
I'll see you in a day. I'm filling up my pockets, getting money in it.
So the way the breaths are now, like obviously I didn't get rid of them completely, but it just sounds a lot more natural. Now I think we could start working on the secret sauce stuff. We got like a lot of the basics out of the way here. There's so much more we could do. One of the next things to do is vocal rider. You either want to use vocal rider or compression. The good thing about using vocal rider over compression is vocal rider, it'll level out the vocals for you without actually compressing it. You know, it's not as destructive as compression. I think that's one good reason to use this here. So we're going to try using it on each track here to see if it helps a little bit. So I'm going to loop the hook. So I try to like have the target be kind of close to where the signal's at. That way it's not doing a lot of movement. You know what I mean? The less movement we have to do, the better.
I keep my eyes shut. I just want to sleep. No more war.
Then usually anytime I use vocal rider, I will any like whatever the decibel reduction is or gain or whatever, I will try to compensate. So if it seems like it's going down about 1 the entire time, I'm gonna make the gain go up about 1. But as it doesn't really matter that much yet because we haven't really leveled the vocals or anything yet. We haven't really tried to do too much other than just like individual processing. So these levels are all pretty similar, so we could probably just copy over the vocal rider for now. We can maybe edit the parameters a little bit more, but it should be a good starting point.
I keep my eyes shut. I just want to sleep. No more war. I just want peace. I'll be MIA.
It's already sounding so much better than it did earlier, in my opinion. So you can still go in and manually mute some breathing, in my opinion. That's not really a big deal. I like my vocals to sound as professional as possible, and I feel like breathing always, you know, too much breathing is not good. It just sounds like you're huffing and puffing on the mic. It's not, no one likes that. All right, anyways, we did our vocal rider. We got a decent chain so far here, but it's mostly just correction type stuff. So there's no right vocal chain the way it's set up. Like next I could either do like some compression and distortion and saturation and stuff like that, or I could do some tuning. I probably might go for the tuning first though. That would probably, it makes most sense to me in my head. Okay, next up we're gonna use another thing from Waves. We're gonna use Waves Real-Time Tuner. This is a great option for something similar to Auto-Tune. I would not say it's a replacement for Melodyne though. Melodyne's a little bit better because Melodyne allows you to actually edit the notes, whereas Real-Time Tuner, it corrects the notes as it hears them, if you can think about how that works. Some plugins have this thing where they input the signal, like Melodyne, VOCALIGN, stuff like that, and it already knows where the signal's at essentially, but other things like Real-Time Tuner, it doesn't import the signal, so it doesn't know what's coming up. Anyways, so we're gonna use this next. So we know we're in E minor, so I'm gonna change it to E minor down here. As you can see, there's a scale at the bottom. I'm gonna click E, and then we're gonna go to natural minor. Not melodic minor. Melodic minor is a lot weirder. Okay, and then next we're gonna wanna play with the note transition, the speed, and the correction. These three things are basically the parameters that are gonna set the tuning. It's the most important parameters. So we're probably gonna wanna solo the individual layers while we're doing this just to make sure we're not overcorrecting. It really depends on the sound you're going for as well though, because if you're going for a more overcorrected sound, you may wanna turn up the vibrato, you may wanna blast like all the settings basically. But yeah, I don't think I want that in this case. I want something to just kind of like, you know, make it feel a little more melodic, make it make a little more sense. So select E minor, let's hear how it sounds, maybe turn on correction a little bit. Solo this one layer here. Let's hear it in the context of the song though, because I feel like that's very important. Okay, I'm gonna start bringing in the other layers. I'm gonna just duplicate the same settings from this auto tune, sorry, Waves real-time tuner over to it. So copy, paste, copy, paste. Okay. And let's hear how that sounds.
I just wanna sleep. No more war. I just want peace.
Let's start playing with the levels a little bit here, because now that they're sounding a little more similar, it's a little bit, it's a little bit easier for me to figure out like which ones I want to turn up and down.
I keep my eyes shut. I just wanna sleep. No more war. I just want peace. I'll be MIA. I'll see you in a day. I'm filling up my pockets, getting money anyway. I keep my eyes shut.
That sounds great. Sounds great so far. I don't like this one particular breath at the end here though. So I'm gonna cut that out, right? I think it's about here-ish. Yeah, this one breath right here, I feel like this one sounds extremely unprofessional. Like there's certain breaths, in my opinion, that just like don't work as well as the other ones.
Filling up my pockets, getting money anyway. I keep my eyes shut.
See, it sounds so much better because it's like the beat's dropping out. And it's just like, you know, like unless we're like really trying to convey this breathing sound, then it doesn't really make sense. I'm gonna move this like vocal a little bit just because like I don't think it's supposed to be back here. You're too close, man.
You're too close, man. You're too close, man.
So I'm not gonna like manually move around the vocals or anything too much. Like if I do, it's just gonna be like for timing's sake, because I'm actually gonna use VOCALIGN here in a little bit to line up all the vocals so they sound more unified. I didn't actually cut any lows or anything yet. I didn't do an EQ or anything. So, you know, we're going to bust out an EQ. Use any EQ you want, but I'm going to use FabFilter. And I'm going to do the same way I process the rest of these vocals. I'm going to do it individually on the actual track. Maybe cut around like 80 hertz or so to start. Not like a full cut though, just like a little slope, you know. Just trying to cut off some lows here. And one thing to be aware of when you do your EQ here is whether or not you're using the auto makeup gain. The auto gain is like super crucial sometimes if you're trying to make your whatever EQ in the same level post EQ. So it's good to keep that in mind whether or not you're going to use that. I don't think I need to at the moment. What I might do is I might EQ the whole group and then put it on individual tracks afterwards, just because it's like easier to hear if I did it correctly.
Eyes shut. I just wanna sleep. No more war.
I think I'm going to cut a little lower too, because I do see a lot of lows building up down there. So maybe like something more like this.
No more war. I just want peace. I'll be MIA.
So let's do it with the track now.
I keep my eyes shut. I just wanna sleep. No more war. I just.
So I'm going to take this EQ I did here on the whole group, and I'm just going to copy it over to each individual layer, and then delete it from the actual group. Like I said, it's better to process the layers individually and combine them as opposed to you know, smashing it all together and then trying to fix it afterwards.
Eyes shut, I just wanna sleep. No more war, I just want peace.
As you can see, they're still super dry sounding, so we can do delay, reverb. I'm not gonna do that yet though. Soon, very soon, okay guys? Don't worry, we're gonna do one more thing first. We're gonna actually use VOCALIGN. So if you don't have VOCALIGN, I recommend getting a trial. This is like, there's a few other softwares that can do this as well. So you can manually warp your vocals to try to line them up. But that's going to take an extreme amount of time. I do not recommend doing that. You could use Reaper, which is that's a sort of free alternative because I don't think the program's free. But there's a free script you could use inside of it to do this, to line up your vocals so the waveforms are more similar. There's also Melodyne does it, but I find Melodyne doesn't do it as well as VOCALIGN, so that's why VOCALIGN is my go-to for this one. I think I heard Logic also can do this, so I'm gonna have to investigate that also. If you guys do vocal alignment, what do you guys use for it? Because I find VOCALIGN to be the best option. But the one problem I find with VOCALIGN is when I close my project and I reopen it, if I just leave it as is and I don't flatten it, sometimes there's issues, like it'll throw off like where it starts or something. And yeah, it's a headache to try to fix that. So a lot of times when I use VOCALIGN, I'll just flatten it afterwards. All right, anyway, so we're gonna drag VOCALIGN on these other two layers, not the main layer, but just these other two, H2 and H3. So we're gonna throw VOCALIGN or whatever vocal alignment software you wanna use. I really wish there was more of these out here because this one's really expensive and very buggy. First thing we're gonna have to do to set this up is we're gonna set the sidechain to the guide track we're using. So for us, that'll be H1 right here. So I'm gonna go in, set the sidechain to H1, and then I'm gonna do pre-FX. I don't know if it really matters. I haven't been able to figure that out. I haven't sat down and just tried to work that out. Since we're doing a pre-FX, I think we should do it at the beginning of the chain. I feel like that makes the most sense. In order to run it now, you open it, click capture. You can do the same with the other window we have, which is kind of a lifesaver because otherwise this would take a very long time. But we're going to capture them both at once now. So we're just going to let it play. Let's see what VOCALIGN did here. If you're new to this software, basically it matches the timing and it also can match the pitch for you as well. I would say it's like Melodyne's cousin. Melodyne's less developed cousin. Like the pitch match pitch thing is not as their pitch stuff is not as accurate as Melodyne, but their timing is better than Melodyne. So I sometimes like to use a combination of the two. You can see the changes it's making down here, but it's fairly it gets convoluted. Let's just say that. So what I'll usually do is I'll listen to it, see how I think it sounds, see if we need to adjust anything.
I keep my eyes shut, I just wanna sleep. No more war, I just want peace.
Yeah, it sounds so much more unified. It sounds more like one recording as opposed to 3 different recordings. So I think what we're gonna do here is just straight up flatten all 3 of these. I would not always recommend other people doing this. The only reason I think I'm good, I'm like ready to do this is because I just know all these very well. Like I know we've made it much better by doing this than not doing this. So I'm just gonna take all 3 of these and flatten them. If you're unsure about doing this though, and you want to try it, I recommend doing a duplication of it. So going over here, selecting all 3, doing a duplicate. This may lag a lot though. That's the one warning I have here. So I'm gonna mute that, and then yeah, we have a little lag bomb right there. But when we're ready to, like, if we know we're completely happy with these changes, we can get rid of that. So anyways, we're gonna take these 3 and it's the moment of no return here. We're gonna press freeze. Actually, sorry, we gotta do it separately. We gotta do one separate from these 2. So we're gonna do these 2 first. Freeze. Might take a little bit because we used an extensive amount of plugins.
2,000 years later.
Alright, if you want to be sure that it's making changes to the vocals, you can zoom in and then click flatten here, and you should see it should line up. Yep, it's much more lined up now. May want to go in and do some manual adjustments as well if it's not completely perfect, but honestly it sounded good to me, so I don't really want to just open up that bag of chips and keep going with that. Let's flatten this first one also. So freeze, same deal, freeze and flatten. One's over here, and then we're going to just duplicate this. Don't need to clean up that hook tuning anymore. Alright, so for delay and reverb, we could just use something stock. We could also, I think Waves has some decent stuff. We've been using all Wave stuff so far, so I don't see why not. I think the MANNY one is alright. Let's use the MANNY delay here. Delay and reverb are very similar. They're like nearly the same thing. So, sometimes you could just use delay instead of reverb. It's always better to use it on a return track though, just because usually you want your vocals to cut through the mix. Unless you don't want them to cut through the mix for some reason, then feel free to not do that. Send the vocals through to A here, and then we're just gonna cycle through some presets, see if we find one we like.
I'm filling up my pockets, getting money anyway. I keep my eyes shut, I just wanna sleep.
I kinda like this one. This is basic stereo delay. Sounds kinda good. Maybe cut the lows a little bit on it.
Eyes shut, I just wanna sleep. No more war, I just want.
So this is a great example of when to use auto leveling here in Fab Filter. And the reason for that is because cutting out the lows really made it a lot quieter there, and we want to bring the volume back up so it's still, we know how loud we want it,
I keep my eyes shut, I just want to sleep. No more war, I just want peace.
One thing I noticed is we didn't really have to do much de-essing yet, so we may want to go in and throw a little bit of de-essing here. But like I said, you want to go based on whether or not the track needs it. Because you throw it on the whole group here if we want. Actually, we're going to use RX8 DS. I find it a little bit easier to work. I generally like the spectral mode more than classic. I don't know why. It just sounds more natural to me.
I keep my eyes shut. I just want to sleep. No more war. I just want peace. I'll be MIA. I'll see you in a day. I'm filling up my pockets, getting money anyway.
So the thing about de-essing, like the more you compress your vocals, the more you're gonna need to de-ess. And we actually didn't do any compression yet, so that's actually part of the reason I didn't feel the need to de-ess yet. I just have a little bit here just for just just in case sake, basically. But basically, let's do the next vocal sauce here. So Butch Vig here. I love this for the color of it. The saturation down here, the solid state saturation, is one of my favorite things about it. And it's a little more compression for us. We could just throw this one on the whole group here, in my opinion. You know, if you don't want to do that though, you can do it on the individual layers too. I still haven't figured out which way I prefer to do it. But the cool thing about doing compression on the entire group is it feels like it smashes it together a little more. So when you have a lot of layers, it kind of helps like unify it a little more. So that's one reason that's one pro to using compression on the group after. So we can do a little compression here and maybe turn up the solid state saturation. And if we want to get really dirty, we can use a tube saturation too.
I keep my eyes shut, I just wanna sleep.
As you can see, it really gives it a lot of bite. That's the one thing I really like about this specific plugin here. It just gives like the vocals so much more bite. And if you turn it up a lot, it really gives it bite, like too much. So it's like something you want to use very subtly, in my opinion.
I keep my eyes shut, I just wanna sleep. No more war, I just want peace.
So that sounds great to me so far. As you can see, there's a lot of different options here. You can change the focus of the compression. You can cut the lows, cut the highs. There's like an EQ. There's a de-esser. There's a lot of different things in here. De-esser is pretty good. Changing the focus works pretty good too. We may want to mess with that a little bit because it changes the way the compression sounds a little bit. You guys ever have your like pointer on your mouse disappear? That just happened to me right now. I can't see it. All right, so I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna reopen it. The good thing about keeping the chain from earlier is we could just copy over the whole thing to the verse. But if you don't, like I said, if you don't know what you're doing, then you could be doing more harm than good. So remember that. All right, so I can see my pointer again, so that's good. Let's listen to what we have though.
I keep my eyes shut, I just wanna sleep. No more war, I just want peace. I'll be MIA, I'll see you in a day. I'm filling up my pockets, getting money anyway.
Okay, so that's it. Yep, that's the mixed hook. Let me know what you guys think about this. I think I will do a part 2 where I mix the verse as well, and we just like get everything completely finished. Yeah, I don't think this could fit into one video, not without me not explaining everything very well and showing how it all works. So, and showing a practical way to use all this as well. That's basically the reason why I thought this would be a good video idea, because I could talk about all the stuff I use in my vocal chain, and I could show you guys how I actually would do it. So yeah, if you guys like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Click the buttons, just a couple clicks. And I'll see you guys in the next video.
Bang Incorporated.